So there's a couple things that we can think about from a dietary perspective when we are we still want to be losing weight. We want to be optimizing our hormones, but I want you to just think about this idea that the second half of your cycle, you are literally building an organ.
Yeah.
You build an organ, like you build the lining of this uterus every single month. So it's energetically incredibly expensive, right? So we have changes in our protein utilization, changes in our glucose. So the amount of we are using more proteins, using more glucose, using more free fatty acids to build up the layer of this endometrium. So you actually need more calories in the second half of your cycle, particularly in week 4. In week 3, what we want to be doing is we want to start increasing the consumption of cruciferous vegetables. So the brassica family, uh, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, um, I don't know if cabbage is considered in there, but I tend to like a lot of cabbage, and I tend to have a lot of sauerkraut through the month, and then resistant starches as well. So a lot of the cravings that women experience in that luteal phase um, can be mitigated, can be ameliorated with the consumption of resistant starches. So in week 3, so the right after ovulation, I would be consuming it every other day.
Mm-hmm.
I would be probably from a nutrition perspective cycling the keto, like something like the Estima diet, which we've mentioned. So the Estima diet is basically like a 28-day cycle where you're eating lots and lots of green leafy vegetables, lots of healthy fats, and sort of a moderate amount of protein. So you'd cycle between that and then a higher carbohydrate day. So in the article that we can link to in the show notes, I talk about a 2-day on, 1-day off protocol. So 2 days you're doing the Estima diet. So this ketogenic diet where you're approximately, and this is really designed for women. So it's like a 70% fat, 20% protein, 10% carbohydrate. You'll do that for 2 days. And then 1 day you'll increase your carbohydrates. You'll have like what I call a carb up day. So you can do 60, instead of doing 70, 20, 10, you might do 60, 20, 20, or you might do 50, 25, 25. There we go. That adds up to 100. Yeah. So you can just, what I'm getting at here is that you can 1 day, like you have 2 days keto, 1 day where you're cycling up your carbohydrates. Um, that's kind of week 3. And then week 4 is sort of do or die, right? So this is progesterone. This is the princess, the principessa. This is where she comes out. She peaks at the end of week 3 and at the beginning of week 4. So about day 21, 22 in your cycle, progesterone reaches its peak and then it will taper off from there. So progesterone, what she's doing is she's being secreted from, um, I like to call the artist formerly known as the corpus of the follicle. Now it's called the corpus luteum. Um, and she is going to be stimulating your appetite. She wants you to be eating more because, as we just mentioned, the glucose metabolism, the protein metabolism, the free fatty acid metabolism is being upregulated to develop the endometrial lining. She is going to be reducing your cervical mucus. So you may find when you're looking in your underwear, if you are watching for, and we talked a little bit about mucus and cervical mucus and vaginal discharge in the last AMA.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like kind of the dry day. Like these are sort of like the dry days, in that week 4, like leading up to your period. And we also have estrogen second rise here as well. So in this second half of your cycle, we also see estrogen rising as well. So a couple of guidelines in terms of nutrition for eating here. We want to be now consuming resistant starches every single day. So in week 3, we were talking about every other day. Resistant starches here every day. They feed the microbiome. They are going to, for my nerds that want to know why this is important, the microbiota in the large intestine actually use resistant starches as a substrate, as a food substrate. So they are going to gobble that up. It doesn't count towards your carbs. And then you start to, as a gift to you for feeding them, they will give you butyrate, which is a short chain fatty acid. It's going to help with the intestinal lining, so improving intestinal hyperpermeability if that's an issue for you. helps with sleep, which is another common thing that women will complain of is sleep disturbances. They feel hot, they have sweats, night sweats, that kind of thing. So resistant starches are really going to help with that. And then the other thing is that they reduce your cravings, because one of the big reasons why you're craving all those things, like the sweets and the salt and all that kind of stuff, is because your microbiome is probably starving.
Mm.
So daily on the resistant starches, I would increase your caloric intake 10 to 15% here. And there'd be some supplements that I'd want you to be taking as well. So glutathione, magnesium, and a nice full spectrum B vitamins as well, because those are also being gobbled up in the preparation for the endometrium for pregnancy.